mount that the current bedbugs outbreak in Paris may spread to other countries. The infestation happens as the country has just hosted two major events. One you know quite well, the Rugby World Cup and Paris Fashion Week. Residents and hotel owners have been burning some of the linen in an attempt to deal with the infestation scourge. We're now joined by microbiologist David Cain. David, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It reads and sounds almost biblical in terms of an infestation. What does that mean?
Well, the problem is bedbugs have been on the increase all over the world over the last 15 to 20 years. Paris has the attention today, but we only look at a couple of months ago or even a couple of years ago, and there are big hotspots in Manhattan, Chicago, just about all international cities. And in fact, I was on the radio the other day on the World Service and someone sent a message in saying, we have bedbugs all over my village in Uganda. So it is a global problem. And one of the reasons for that is people don't really talk about it, don't really get knowledgeable, and therefore it continues to spread.
Yeah, those bedbugs in Uganda are not being described as potentially causing a threat to the international community. And so what is it that we need to understand about how fast it is spreading? We understand it's reached London already.
Oh, absolutely. We've been tracking a problem in London. My business has been going since 2005, back when bedbugs were thought to be a very rare pest problem. Nowadays, we find customers who are picking them up on buses, trains, tubes, cinemas, doctor surgeries, international travel. It's just become a huge global problem. So what people really need to do is when they're travelling and stay away from home, take 3 to 5 minutes to check the beds that they're about to sleep in, because if they can avoid bedbugs to begin with, that's brilliant. The second thing is to understand that if you're staying at home, you spend on average 180 hours a month sleeping in your bed. So 30 minutes once a month, strip that bed down, vacuum the mattress, vacuum through the frame, and as you're doing so, you're looking for live samples, car skins and fecal traces. And if you have a monitor, such as this, you look for the little black dots on the detection skirt around it, and that tells you have a problem. Now, if you do all of these things, you never have a huge out-of-control problem, and you can fix it relatively simply. But the problem is people panic, they want to throw things, burn things, and none of that really helps, because you have to understand how is the problem starting to begin with, how can you deal with it when it's an incredibly small issue, rather than waiting for it to get out of control. And as Paris has found out, once it gets out of control in a city, people start reporting it on social media, it goes on TikTok, Twitter, and it becomes a big, huge issue. When if they just stopped and thought about this and had a public education drive and educated people about the problem, then we wouldn't be at this stage today.
Sure. David, perhaps let's go a step back and you can tell us in 2023 why this manages to still be a problem when you speak of the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a question I've asked many times, because I started going to conferences and talking about bedbugs in about 2007. So we've had a very long time of this problem coming back into society, and for various reasons, unfortunately, some people don't want to support public education and awareness, and that's allowed this kind of secret dark corner that the problem has just got worse and worse until it suddenly explodes. It's one of those that an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure, and that's really where we should have been 10 years ago. Because we weren't, we're now really paying the price for it today.
Oh my. You spoke about public education. So this is being referred to as an infestation. And so with the threats that this could be a global issue like COVID-19 was a global issue, are travel restrictions in place or travel advisories, are they in place if you're going to Europe?
They aren't in place, and that's one of the problems. if we actually educated travellers as they moved around and encouraged them to check the beds and avoid the problem, get as much transmission.
Oh my.
But we really travelling as well as educating.
Yeah, David, I think
without that level, you can't control it.
I promise you there's an infestation in our connection because I completely missed what you said there. If you could just please repeat it for us.
Sorry. You need to start by educating people as they travel to countries. You need to educate people in their own countries, and you also need to have much, much better systems to control and detect. So there's a whole bunch of education that's missing just about on every single level. We would need to start off by primary school education so that children didn't think that bedbugs were connected with dirt. They're just transmitted around by people by mistake. If people understand it, they don't transmit it around as much. So there's a whole lots of levels that we need to work at, and we should have been doing this 10 years ago.
Okay. What's the worst that could happen to humans? What's the worst that could happen?
The worst that could happen, and I will stress this is incredibly rare circumstances, there was a person in America earlier this year who died. So they stayed in a prison cell, they got bitten, I think it was about 2,500 times, and then over the next couple of days they got exposed to a source of a bacterial infection, and they died of sepsis about a week later. So it can cause very, very problematic cases. We also get people who have a true anaphylaxis reaction to them, and they end up in hospital with like fluid-filled blisters. So for some people, it's very, very painful. Others, it's also psychologically very damaging.
Sure.
You can go from being a very confident person, and because you feel invaded in your bed, affected while you sleep, it can really impact the quality of your life. And I've seen people need therapy after this.
Oh my. Very quickly for us, David, we've got our rugby team that is in France. We've had a couple of people, ordinary South Africans, who have traveled to France and to London. And so what is your advice for people who are going to hop onto a plane, who are going to have their suitcases on board, who are going to be sitting next to people? There's no need for panic. What do you need to do or need to know?
There's no need to panic, but you need to understand what to look for. Because again, check as you travel. Live samples, car skins, fecal traces. Because if you check places and avoid bedbugs, you don't end up with bedbugs. Because travelling is such an important part of the human experience, you really need to get out there and do as much of it as you can. So don't put things off because you're worried about bedbugs. Invest the time, understand the problem, be aware of the issue, and therefore you won't be picking it up and bringing it home. And if you do pick it up and bring it home, act quickly and efficiently to resolve the problem. Don't use aerosols, don't use foggers. A lot of the chemicals they're completely resistant to. But the good news is, if you're prepared to spend the time, read, understand the problem, you can fix it. I wrote a book back in 2009 that helps people fix bedbug problems with literally simple equipment like a vacuum cleaner or a stiff brush. And that can really help control problems. But avoidance is the key.
Okay. David Cain is a microbiologist. Thank you very much, David, for your time this afternoon. More news for you in a few moments.